Hi YouTube, this is Papa Shango here with an update on my FJ Cruiser project. It's been a while since my last update. I think the last one was in regards to my suspension kit, which was the Pro Comp 3-inch lift for the FJ Cruiser 2007. And so I guess I'll start there. It's been approximately 7 months now since I did that install. Now, when I got the kit, I'll show you here, they tell you to do to check your measurements. So that's what I did, and record them. So I recorded my measurements here, which were roughly 10 inches at the front, and there was 21 inches there and 21 3/4 there on the right rear. And then once I installed it, I recorded this. So now we're looking at we've got a 14.5 inch and a 14.5 inch right there in the front, 24.5 there, and it was 25 in the rear on the right. So that's roughly, looking at that, 21s and 21 3/4. We're looking at 10 inches and 10 inches. Going to 14.5 and 14, so that's 4.5 inch lift. 24 here and a half, and I had 21. That's 4.5 inches, and on this right rear I had 25 after the lift, and I was sitting at 21 3/4. So it's a little bit. So I've got 25. So that's roughly about 4.5 inches all the way around of lift. Now I thought that it would settle over time, and yet it hasn't. Not really. I'm just going to set this in here real quick so it doesn't blow away in all this wind. So I'm going to show you. And what I did to measure this was I went from the top of the rim here with the tape up to that edge there. Now I know that that may or may not be right, but that's how I measured it. I figured if I measure it that way, then I'm using the same point, reference point, as I did before, and it has nothing to do with the tire at all. So basically what I did is I set the tape right down on the top of the tire there, and I pulled it across here, right there on top of the rim, and I pull it across here, and I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's sitting at 14.5. Still 7 months after the install. So looks like I've got no settling at all. It's hanging in there. Now I gotta talk to Pro Comp about the springs, because I do know they make a 4-inch kit, and you can see a number there, which is 015. I'm sorry, 011557491-1, and that's what my springs say. So I'm gonna call them with that and just say, hey, you know, is it possible that I got the 4-inch springs there? So is that even possible? So just for giggles, for anybody who's looking to know, what am I sitting at from the ground with these? These are my tires are 265/70 R15, and I'm sitting at 38.25 inches up to the edge of the wheel well there in the front. So set this back in here. So I've been to a couple of shops, talked to a couple of guys about it. talked to them about some of my concerns about, is this gonna mess my geometry up? I've had it realigned. The alignment's dead on. It tracks perfect on highway speeds. And I don't have any issues there. So they said if it's been 7 months and I hadn't had any issues, then I'm pretty safe. But once again, that lift came with these spacers. See if I can get a shot of them. Right in there, there's spacers. This lift came with these spacers, and I've heard some guys say don't use them, they don't need them, they don't need them or whatever. I used them, and hopefully that's what's helping me out here. So moving on. So since the last time, I think we'll start off with some of the simple stuff I did. And I painted my wings here in the front. I painted my mirror and my door handles, because I like doing stuff on the cheap. My rear quarters there I painted, and my panel there just above the tow hitch. So there's my other handles there, and the other mirror. So I did that, painted those same color as I used on my rock sliders and my bumper, my US off-road bumper here in the front, which is Rust-Oleum hammered black. That's what I used, and it's been holding up tremendously well. Now on the rock sliders, of course, in Edmonton, they sand and gravel the roads, so those rock sliders take a beating, and I have to touch them up every couple of weeks this past winter, because of the sand is just, it's just sand blasting the paint right off of them. In retrospect, you know, I probably would think that powder coating might be more durable to it. I know that some guys get rhino liner put on them. That's pretty expensive. I'm all about trying to keep things cheap and easy to fix. So I figured if I rattled it, then all I had to do if I scratched them up was just shoot some more paint on them and be good to go. So it's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but now they've cleared the streets of all the sand and gravel. So we'll see how they hold up from this point on. And if they hold up, then it'll just be kind of a winter thing I have to deal with, and I'll just deal with it as it comes. The next thing on the list I did is I got this snorkel here. You can see it here as we walk around it. And this is just an eBay knockoff snorkel. I think I paid about $100 for it. It was distributed through a company that's in California, and as I imagine, it's probably made in China. But I have to tell you that I've looked at the ones in the shop, and I'm not going to say the brand here, because, you know, like down the road, you know, like I may be buying stuff from that brand, brand down or anything. But this is identical to one of the high-end ones. I'm actually surprised at how close it is. I thought, well, you know, it might be a little cheaper quality, but I really can't tell the difference. And that's just my opinion. You know, nothing against guys who go with the brand names or anything like that, but, you know, I'm on a limited budget, and I'm just looking for stuff that's going to get the job done. If it gets the job done, I'm good to go. Let's see, moving on. I also repainted my grill there. If you notice, I used to have that grill hammered black, and I decided to go old school. I like the old school look, and so I decided I'm going to go ahead and paint it white, and that color matches pretty darn good with that roof. and that is a trim clad, I believe it is trim clad gloss white, and then I shot over that with a trim clad satin clear. So I kind of got a really good looking finish there. So so that came out pretty nice. I like it because it damn near matches that roof perfect. The white was just perfect. So a lot of guys were asking me around, they asked me how did I get the Toyota? That must have took some heavy duty taping. Well, it didn't take any taping at all. What I did was I took this whole grill off, of course, to repaint it. And what I did is I took an old soldering iron I had laying around, and on the back side of the on the back side of this grill, you'll see that there's these little plastic tabs that these posts on the back of the Toyota go through. It's kind of put on there like a ball. So what I did was I took the soldering iron and I melted those balls that were on the end and just pushed the whole thing off. So it's probably about 5 or 6 of them back there. So once I pushed it all off, then what I did was I painted it, got it all painted. So when I went to put it back on, of course I melted all the little ball end pieces off of it. But I just used some heavy duty down to minus 40 silicone, clear silicone, and just filled it all in and just basically just kind of glued it all back on, threw a 2x4 on top of it to put some weight on it for 24 hours, and it was good to go. As it come off, held on all winter long, and it's not going anywhere. Okay, onto the new stuff. As you can see, I added some Hello lights. These are the 500 FF lights. Just the old school lights. I keep the cover. A lot of guys run without the covers. I keep the covers on because, like I said, here in Edmonton, they sand the streets, and you could just get your glass. I don't know if you can see that. Let's see a comparison between the two. You can see how this is compared to that, and it would just get pitted up. So I'm just going to keep them on there just to keep it all clean and keeping it from getting just blasted from the road during the winter. Okay, so how I hook those lights up, I'm going to go over here, take a look inside. As I ran it inside here into my dash, and this was really easy, folks. It was easier than I thought. What I did is I added here a rocker right there, and that's for my my lights up front. You know, I just had to, you have to, for this one here, I got it from, oh gosh, what's the website? I believe it is OTRATTW.com. Over the hill or something, over the woods or something. Anyway, they sell rockers, and you can get custom ones with anything you want on. Well, not anything, but you can make it say anything you want. They're pretty open to that, and they have like some pretty cool rockers, some pretty cool custom ones. You know, it would have been nice to get some that match this, but you know what? I got these, and it works fine. Now, the easy part was putting this in, and I'm going to tell you why. Because what I did, and I'm going to pull this because we're going to look in there next anyway. What I did was, of course, I ran the wiring in to the cabin, just up on here under the dash, up under here, and of course, after I had done that, then I ran that wiring all the way over to this side, pretty much in this area right in here. And then I just did my typical thing. I took the 2 screws out here and here, and took these sides off here. I took this whole face cover off, and then unplugged these switches, and the whole cover was off. So now I had this whole area open in here with just the now, because I had that whole wire, I could see the wire down in there, and all I did was I reached down in here and I pushed out the cover that was in there. I pushed that out, and then I ran the wires through, through that hole, plugged everything in, got everything the way I wanted it, and then just pushed that back in. This cover, I had to trim it. So once you use that switch, you're kind of like committed to using that switch, right? You can't go back unless you get a whole new piece here. But I'm cool with that. So I hooked that up. This literally took me, I'd say, doing the button probably 15-20 minutes to do the button once I did all the wiring and everything for the lights. So that's what's happening right there. I'm gonna go back out and we'll pop the hood. So what I did here in the hood is, when I originally hooked up the winch, I hooked it directly to the battery, and that's how I ran with it for the last several months. But then what I wanted to do was I wanted to add a disconnect in here and run some stuff off of the disconnect. So right here is where I mounted my disconnect, and it's right there. So now the winch itself is connected to the disconnect, and so the winch has no power to it right now because obviously I've got it all disconnected. Additionally, I did the same thing with the lights. So these 2 lights here are also running on the disconnect. Now inside the vehicle, when I hook the wiring up, obviously if I flip the switch on, the lights for the switch, it's backlit. The lettering and everything is backlit, so those lights are on. But what I did is I used the disconnect, because if those get flipped on and I don't notice it or I don't know about it, obviously I've got the covers on it, obviously the lights are on, and then I'm going to run into problems, running down my battery, whatever, right? So I didn't want to do that. So I also hooked that into the disconnect. Now what I did here is, you'll see there's a box there, and you know what, I'm going to open that box up instead of explaining it, and I'm going to show you what I got there. So I'll be right back.